what a doula was for the longest time as a chiropractor until I started working in birth. And then I realized that they were going to be my best friends. Doulas are, I always use an analogy when we talk about their work as being a companion in the birth process, a lot like when, all right, so let's say that your job as an expecting mom is to land this baby in any, like it's an airplane, right? And you've got everybody in the cockpit with you. You've got your partner, you've got your expectations about birth, you've got your birth team with you in that cockpit. I always say that my job as a chiropractor is to make sure that when you push on the buttons for the landing gear come down, that everything's talking inside the plane, right? But a doula's job is very, very special. What they do is they're kind of in the control tower outside of that whole thing, but in your headphones so that you can help land that baby in any kinds of weather. They are really an essential part of, I think, a birth team, because I know especially when in the pandemic, it really got highlighted for a lot of my friends who were doulas, because there were suddenly these birth partners like husbands or wives who were in that space and suddenly asked to do all the things, and they've never given birth before. They've never been to many births before. Maybe they've had a couple other kids, but suddenly they're expected to know all the things and know who all the providers are in the hospital, and if they have a high C-section rate, or if they're, a really good natural birth person that's going to let you labor in different positions. The doulas who are in a community know this about all the people. And they also, at least in my experience for our births, like part of what I like about them is they talk a language to a mom in labor that nobody else really knows how to say. And that is such an important role because some of birth is also a mental and emotional transition for that mom. So I have I've been so lucky to watch my guest today's journey. It's been, I gotta say, like such a, I don't know, like you watch people get really successful at doing stuff that they love, and to be able to witness that growth and birth and success is just so awesome. So without any further ado, go ahead and take it away, Kylie.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's
so tell everybody how you got involved with this work. Let everybody know about your journey.
Okay. Absolutely love what you just said about being a doula. I've never heard that analogy before about being in the control tower with the plane. That's phenomenal. I'm going to use that from now on. I became a doula before when I was pregnant with my very first kid. And I knew the role of doula was really important, but I didn't realize how important it was until I gave birth without a doula. So I was under the impression that I knew everything I needed to know about birth, which isn't very much, honestly. Like, you don't need to know a lot of things. Knowledge is not going to birth your baby for you. Your body's going to birth your baby for you, and you need a lot of trust. Anyway, that being said, I gave birth without a doula, and then my world was blown open. Like, okay, everybody needs a doula. Even if you know a lot about birth, even if you're in this industry, you need a doula, because your support person needs a support person, is really what it comes down to. So when I gave birth, Barry, who's my partner, he was the most amazing support person to me, but he couldn't do the best job he could do because he couldn't, simple things like go to the bathroom, like he couldn't run and get more ice cubes from the gas station. Just these little things. He didn't know to tell me, hey, you haven't peed in 8 hours. You should probably pee. And that's probably why you've been pushing for 4 hours. All these little things that just your normal support person, no matter how much you love them, they don't know because they're not experienced in birth. So that was kind of my wake up call that, okay, moms don't need a doula because they shouldn't need anyone. They have everything they need within themselves, but a doula is a dang good tool in the toolbox of birth. So I became a doula about 3 years ago, and I started out like, let me be a doula for everyone. I'll do prenatal classes, I'll do birth, I'll do postpartum, I'll teach people how to baby wear, I'll do it all. But after time, I really, really focused down specifically on birth. And now I'm actually attending home births almost exclusively. So I'll attend hospital births for transfers or for old clients or for friends, but I've really niched down to home birth, which just feels really good and really aligned with who I am. I had a home birth myself. And coming up this summer, I'm actually going to start mentoring doulas, which is crazy. So I have a group already of like 75 doulas who I'm going to mentor this summer. I'm bringing in experts from all sorts of different categories to help teach them, because I know where I'm not an expert. So I'm excited to collaborate with a lot of other people and yeah, just help make better doulas for this world, better doulas who advocate, who aren't scared to ruffle feathers, who aren't scared to stand up to providers, and who really support moms as the authority of their birth, because that's what matters most to me, at least.
Yeah, it seems a little bit like the Wild West when you're looking for a doula out there. It's tricky to find, how do you know that you're going to find someone? So if you're
Yeah.
going to give somebody like questions to ask themselves or resources, if there's an expecting couple out there watching this, what would you say? How do you say, hey, look, this
Yeah.
is going to be a good person for you?
You know what? I am such a fan of vibes over everything. I think anyone can lie in an interview. I think we've all probably like lied in an interview to make ourselves sound cooler. So vibes over everything is really my number one tip. My second tip is when you're going into meeting people, whether it's a doula or a provider, don't give them everything that about you. Don't give them everything about you, because they're going to change their words and their perception, how you perceive them based on what you want. So don't say, I want a hands-off birth. I don't want anything. I don't want Pitocin. I don't want it managed. I don't want like you in the room. Because then potentially they're going to be like, great, I'll sit on the couch. But if you come in and say, what does it normally look like when you support moms? Do you support home birth? What does a normal situation look like for you? And then they can tell you without the bias knowing of what you want as the mom. So go in with like open-ended questions and see who they are rather than telling them who you are. That's my little trick.
I like that. I also like that you use the word support a lot when you talk about that.
Mhm.
That's really the name of the game, right? And I think that's probably another thing that we think about a lot of the doula interviewing and some of the prenatal conversations that happen, but the real work comes when it's 9 o'clock at night, and at least this was this was what happened with Danielle and I, where she was like, "Well, I don't want to bother Alex. It's getting kind of late, right?" And so to be able to be able to help moms bridge that, okay, well, this is the person that you wanted at your labor, right?
Yeah.
And what does support look like? Like, what do doulas usually do in order to support a birth?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer. And I know that's a bad answer, but it's so specific to that one person. A lot of my clients come to me because they know that I just trust birth. And a lot of clients come to me wanting no intervention until something comes up. So they don't want to do anything like prophylactically. And so for me, when I'm supporting people, it's a lot of like sitting on my hands and encouraging mom to listen to her intuition, because I think a lot of birth workers in general, no matter in what capacity, we're so used to offering advice and offering ways to fix what's going on. And we need to get a little bit better of just sitting on our hands and helping mom really center herself in her own knowing and center herself in what's going on in her own body. So a lot of literally, I would say the majority of the time I'm at a birth, I'm literally just sitting there like 1 inch from mom, just offering support. A lot of times that looks like grounding, hands-on, squeezing her arm or squeezing her hips, but really just like being with her. There are births though where things come up where doulas really need to use their education and their experience and their thinking brain. So potentially mom's feeling a lot of pain in her back. Doulas would know, okay, let's try certain positions, or like what's going on that could potentially be causing that pain in her back. Or like I said, with my own birth, I didn't pee. I literally did not pee my entire labor. I pushed for 4 hours. I didn't even think of the fact that like the bladder is literally like can get in the way of the baby coming out of the pelvis. A birth doula would know that. So a birth doula would notice, hey, you haven't gone to the bathroom in a while. Let's go do a couple contractions on the toilet. Little things like that, where where we do use our thinking brain, but I think a lot of times we forget that the majority of it needs to be holding space, simply holding space.
So if I play the devil's advocate dad here and say, well, I'm already paying the $6,000 for the midwife to come to our
Mm,
house to birth, what do I need to pay extra for a doula for?
yeah.
What would you say to that?
So this is based solely on my experience in Southwest Florida attending home births. Midwives are not going to be focused on mom. Midwives are focused on really the health of baby, like above all, and really just watching out for something to go wrong. So they'll be there if something goes wrong. Not peeing is not to that level of something going wrong yet. So that's, in my opinion, that's not something that they would even say. They would just, sit on the couch, check heart tones every now and then, if that's what you're doing, check blood pressure every now and then, if that's what you're doing. But very rarely, it does happen, but very rarely is the midwife really going to be hands-on, helping mom find good positions, helping mom navigate what's going on in her birth. A lot of the times it's more sit back and wait for baby to come. And I don't think people realize that. Don't think moms realize that. And it's even worse in the hospital. So if you're giving birth in the hospital, you'll have a nurse checking in on you through active labor, but the nurse, you're not going to have someone by your side for all of labor. So if you're going to the hospital and it's just you and your partner, oh boy, that is the situation where everyone really deserves a doula, because I don't think there are many partners that are up to that task of being the only support person in a weird setting. So hospital birth is it's a weird setting. You get there and you're like, this is a weird place for something like birth to happen, of unmedicated vaginal birth to happen. So you definitely need that support person who's there for you, not there to follow the rules, not there to follow the laws, and really not there to manage your health, but who's just there to help you physically, spiritually, emotionally.
Everybody has a really interesting role in that birth process, and I think that sometimes um, partners end up with a thinking that they are going to act one way, but then when labor happens, they become another person. Very protective of the cave, right, and protective of that, of their partner who's laboring, and she looks like she's in pain, and we kind of become easy targets for interventions that way because of the
Yeah.
fear factor, right?
Yeah.
Doulas almost seem to be outside of that. They're like, well, I've seen this rodeo before, been in this movie a couple times, I know how it ends, right? And so they can kind of represent a different role. And you, I think, gave me a just a completely different idea about midwifery, especially home birth midwifery, that I think I've misunderstood for a long time. I think it's quite possible that in my mind, I've thought about home birth midwives as having also a doula role, but it may be that that's as accurate as when people come into me as a chiropractor and also expect me to give them a back massage, right? I know the muscles and I can do that kind of thing, but what I'm really there for is the nerve system. And what you just said about home birth midwifery made me think that I think I've had this expectation of home birth midwives to also be doulas, when really that's a clearly distinct profession. That care for that person may be part of why she became a midwife, but really being able to put that onto somebody else's shoulders that it's consistently looking for her needs, as you mentioned, in all the different facets, not just physical needs, but emotional, spiritual needs too. I think it's a really, really smart way to divide up those responsibilities so she can do the work of focusing on that baby, focusing on the obstetric nature of what's about to happen and letting her body do what it needs to do up until the point where, she needs to do anything, right? So that's a
Mhm.
really interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah. I love the comparison to the work you do. Yeah.
Huh.
And even here in Southwest Florida, there are some home birth midwives that require moms, especially first-time moms, to have a doula to fill that role, just so mom is not mistakenly looking to the midwife to fill that role and then to be let down when the midwife, when the midwife shows up and says, oh, you're only 4 centimeters, I'm going to go do some other appointments, I'll come back. And the mom's like, if the mom was alone, the mom would be like, wait a second, I need you, I need someone. And that's where the doula comes in.
Yeah, the last thing you want to hear at that point in time is, well, should have hired that doula like I told you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Hey, you have a your Instagram handle, Autonomy Mommy, as just like you've done such a great job with your account. I know that you're reaching out to people all over the place now, and you mentioned that you're doing a workshop for 75 doulas, which is just incredible. It's so neat. What do you think it is about how you're messaging to moms about autonomy and birth? Why do you think that's resonating so well?
Yeah, I don't think there are a lot of people out there spreading the message I'm spreading, which is I don't focus on anatomy. I don't focus on physiology. I don't even really talk about like the process of birth, honestly. I am like very specifically focused on both mindset and autonomy. And I think there's just a lot of the typical birth education out there. So people are used to seeing hey, this is what Pitocin is. Hey, this is what the stages of labor are. Hey, this is how you do coping mechanisms. Whereas I'm really focused on just standing up for yourself and working on the mindset stuff. And a lot of that actually has nothing to do with birth. It has everything to do with like who you are as a person and just how you've acted your entire life. So can you stand up to authority? Do you care what people think about you? Can you say no when you want to say no in everyday life situations? And those are the things I focus on, which from the outside, a lot of people are probably like, well, that has nothing to do with birth, but it has everything to do with birth. You birth how you live. If you're not a go with the flow type of person, which we can talk about in a second, if you're not in tune with your intuition, you're not going to like magically be that way for your birth. I want to tell a story, and I tell a story all the time, and I'm sure you don't remember it because you have so many clients, but I was probably like 40 weeks pregnant and I was seeing you 3 times a week. And you asked me, so what are your coping plans for birth? Like, what are you going to do to cope? And I literally said, I don't know. I'm just going to go with the flow because I've never done it before, which to most people are probably like, oh no, like that's going to be a really horrible birth experience. I don't like to like project that, but you know, it comes up when people say something like, I'm going to go with the flow. Sometimes I'm like, oh no, but I meant it. I really meant it in my heart that like, I'm going to be able to handle whatever happens. And that includes if something bad comes up, like I'll be able to handle it. And I trust myself to make the decision in the moment. So I love telling that story because I didn't see the look in your eyes, but you and Amanda, the wonderful Amanda, I just imagined what you guys were thinking in that moment.
Well, it's different, right? Because some people say that, right? And the one of the places where we connect so well is that the concept of state, like who do you want to be when things get really tough? And you don't, like you said, you don't magically become that person. When it comes to things like parenting or birth or any challenge in your life, being able to like be that person that you wanted to be when your kid has just put their poop out of their diaper and smeared it all over the $1,000 piece of artwork that you had framed, right? Like, how do you respond to that if you don't think about how you want to be as a parent? How do you respond to, hey, listen, this baby's been stuck in here for a while, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and prep you for a C-section, right? Like when you're looking at those kinds of things and you haven't thought it through, like who do I want to be? A lot of times, I like saying that the only place I've ever seen confidence come before courage is in the dictionary, right? That you have to be able to have the courage to be able to step into a place where you've never done it before and be the person that you want to be. And then as you continue that kind of experience, that's how you gain the confidence to be able to say things like, no, actually, I think I'm going to just try to put myself in a different position. Or, oh, well, I guess I'm going to take that to Maselli's to get that cleaned, like whatever that is. If you haven't even like really put yourself in that place of knowing who you are and who you want to be, then you're just setting yourself up for a really challenging experience. But if you know that you trust like you have a very solid intuition, your intuition has been right so many times for you, or if it's like a spiritual path for you that, hey, listen, I have control over this anyway. This is my higher power that's going to be able to direct this. But that is your orientation. You know that about yourself. Man, what a blessing. I mean, that's exactly probably the best thing that I could ever give to somebody. I love that you're getting that message out to so many people. It's yeah, I know. I've always seen my role as a prenatal chiropractor to be a supportive one of whatever somebody wants to do. So if someone's plan is to do that, I'm like, cool. Then you let, like, the tools that you need to be able to do that are going to be, really up to you, right? But if someone's like, gosh, I haven't thought about it, I might need some kind of coping things, then cool, that's great. I can send you some resources, right? So I like to see that. What I'm curious about too is when you went through your birth and you didn't have a doula, and then you came through and you were starting to think about it. What was it that made you start thinking differently about, what I really want to do is I really want to support moms in this process of pregnancy and birth. What was it about that made you want to really switch into making this stuff that you can use to change the world?
Yeah. I always had something special about me. That's weird to say. I always understood the mindset part. I always understood that how we perceive life is life and we're in control. But until I gave birth, that was just like a thought of mine. I couldn't actually put it into practice. I couldn't say, look, see, like, I know I'm strong enough if I think I'm strong enough. And so I think when I was a doula before I actually gave birth, I think there was like a self-limiting belief there where I didn't have the proof that I could do it. And as soon as I gave birth, I'm like, yes, what I thought was true was 100% true. So I'm not saying that this is like better than any other experience, but I never got to like a freak out point. I never got to, this is hard. I never got to, I want to give up. I never got to, I need medicine. I never got to help me, which is an unusual thing for birth. A lot of moms get to that point where it's, I need help outside of myself, help me. But I think what I had gone through in my life prepared me for that moment to just fully surrender, completely surrender, like out of body experience, surrender. And once I gave birth, I realized, okay, like this is something that I can help other people do now that I know it really exists.
Talk about that a little bit more, about that moment where you were in that place of surrender, because one of the things that I find just with some of my patients is the more that people know, the harder their labors tend to be, because they think about what's going on all the time.
Yes.
I always see, like, people talk about, well, you really got to get into that primitive brain. You got to, like, let that out and just, like, be the birthing person, right? Talk about that moment for yourself. I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah. So I really think that first and second trimester are perfect for like the knowledge part of birth prep, the knowing, the practical stuff, the logical stuff. But I think if you're trying to be that practical, knowing, let's think about it person up until the very end, it's really hard to switch off your thinking brain. And that's really what surrender is just completely switching off the thinking brain that's judging the situation. So if you're saying, wow, this hurts, it hurts. If you can instead not even define what's going on in your life and literally be just like the watcher, that's really where the magic happens. So I say first and second trimester, really nail down that practical knowledge stuff. Third trimester, meditate, get outside, get out of your brain, let go of what you think birth should be. And you can even get to a point where you like, stop listening to other people's birth stories. Stop trying to like think about what you're going to do in situations, to think about what it's going to be like. And literally just turn off that thinking brain and pretend like you're watching a movie. That's your own life happening in front of you.
I love that. That's a really cool tip. I think that's if we can get we can start helping to educate moms about, yeah, you should know what you're doing, and these are the times to do it. The rest of the time is you connecting in baby, body, partner. That is definitely something I'm glad that you
Yeah.
brought that up.
Yes. And trust. I think people misunderstand what trust means. I think when I say trust your body, people are like, oh, I'm going to give birth vaginally. It's going to be pain-free. It's going to be great. There's no bad outcome. That's not what I mean when I say trust. I mean, like, trust your intuition. If your intuition says, I need to go to the hospital right now, or I need to ask for an induction, or whatever it may be, trust your intuition when it comes up. So that's what I mean when I say trust yourself and trust birth. Trust even when it tells you that you need help.
Yeah, because ultimately, this is your birth. This isn't the birth provider's birth. This isn't your partner's birth, right? This is yours. And the ability to listen to that and come through that experience, however it goes, with a solid sense of integrity that I did the things that I listened to my body here, and this is what my body was telling me. If you want another shot at however that looks, the next time you can get another shot at what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But being
Yeah.
able to go into that space of, yeah, honoring yourself and honoring your own process. What an incredibly expansive spiritual journey that can be. One of the best things, I think. Like, this is where the birth envy comes in for me, right? Like, I'm never going to have that. So being able to watch that, and I think that's why I want to work so closely with women who are birthing, is because of that birth as an initiation into this new chapter and phase and expansion and evolution of who they are as a person. So that's amazing. So let me finish up. If people want to get in touch with you, or if they want to find out more about the kind of work that you do, whether it's birthing professionals or if it's birthing couples, how do they do that?
Yeah, the best place is Instagram. So at the Autonomy Mommy, or my website, theautonomymommy.com. I'm in Southwest Florida, Fort Myers. I do doula support. I have online birth courses for moms. I have a doula training program. So go to Instagram first. And then if you're not on Instagram, just go to my website.
Cool. Okay. Well, you are absolutely like just one of the, I don't know. We love talking about you and your success in this in our office. It's just been so awesome. We just celebrate it all the time and really feel like I know you said that it sounded weird to say that you've got something special to you, but you really do. And it's something that I think that's why a lot of people are gravitate towards your message, is because you really I think we all have gifts, and to be able to be vocal about that, to be able to help people is I think one of the biggest purposes and callings that we can have is aligning what we're supposed to be doing with how we can help make a change in the world. And it's really beautiful to watch you do that. So way to go. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you
Yep.
so much.
All right. Well, have a great day. Our next master class that we're going to be doing, we have been working on trying to get Dr. Emily Kadish on for a pelvic floor physical therapy talk for our next master class, and we've got that lined up now. So we're going to be able to do that in April. If you have other things that you'd like to learn about, we've been doing these master classes for about a year now, and so we've got a pretty good archive. Everything from the last one that I did with my wife, Dr. Danielle, on the Aura Ring and biometric data and how we're using that to look at fertility, to things like education that we did with some of our local childhood education experts here. We all have them in here. Our Pathways group is the place where we usually post them first here locally, but we stream them for everybody to be able to see. So if you have any questions, we're really easy to find out on Instagram, Mama's Chiropractic. Facebook, Mama's Chiropractic, and also our Pathways group, Pathways Connect Southwest Florida, SWFL. We're also on YouTube. You'll find me at Doc Edwards. So if you have any questions, send us a message, send us an email. We're always happy to respond. Share this too. If you have people that you think could find out a little bit more about this message, you've got a partner who doesn't know what a doula is and is like, I'm not paying for that thing. Watch this video, right? Because you learned a whole lot of stuff today. So thank you again for